Hi everyone, how you doing? You're right. Welcome to Now 119. And it's the third time this year, 2024, that we drop into the world of Now That's All Local Music. This one came out about 2 weeks ago, so I'm not totally on the case this time. A little bit behind, sorry. But how you all doing? How you all doing? It's that time of the year where we have a look at, in this case, only 44. It's been right up to 50 recently, so slightly fewer songs this time. 44, but it's quality rather than quantity. How do these 44 songs stack up? Well, let's go through them all together. As always, I really want to know what you guys think. I just put some points out to get the ball rolling, and I'm always interested to know what everyone else thinks. We're looking at which songs are really good, which ones will stand the test of time, which ones will go on to next year and beyond and become all-time classic pop songs, and why. And also which ones are not so good, what's wrong with them, how could they be better. Well, we kick off for the second time this year with Sabrina Carpenter. Now, this song is called Please, 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 and I must say it does start well. The reverb at the very beginning on those please, please, pleases is really pleasing. I was definitely won over by them. And then you get these tinkly, almost 70s arpeggios, like really early synths. And they tickled my pleasure centres rather nicely. It's only when her simpering voice kicks in properly that I kind of start to roll my eyes. I know I have good judgment, she says. I know I have good taste. And she promptly disproves that a few seconds later by throwing in a typically misjudged, tasteless motherfucker. On the video version anyway, if not the clean up now version. So the music's alright. It's got some interesting parts. I just don't like the vocals. I think they're too simpering, and yeah, I like the reverb. So maybe if you turn the the dry vocals down and just boosted the wet, it might have been better. Without further ado then, let's find a singer that I really do like, and someone who's shaping up to be one of the talents of this year. It's Chappell Roan, and here we have Hot to Go. And it's another long video with an extended intro, so we'll cut straight to the chase. What a chase though. Great song, this one. I definitely prefer her voice. I find it spikier and punchier. She doesn't sound quite as entitled and bratty. It's kind of more assertive, and above all, it's more fun. She kind of reminds you of people like Lena Lovitch and Toya from that era, Hazel O'Connor maybe. And the synth pop backing is definitely stuck in 1982, and that's the ultimate compliment you can pay a team, honestly. And kind of a hint of, more recently, Olivia Rodrigo in there as well. It's a really strong song. She's definitely proven herself. It's definitely more my sort of style, vocal-wise, than Sabrina. And indeed the next one, which I won't play, but I will tell you all about it. It is Billie Eilish and Birds of a Feather. So, I probably should have gone straight off to Sabrina, to be honest, because it's also a bit simpering. Now, like the last Billie song, it kind of has a fast-ish, yet soft beat, and it goes all the way through this time, instead of waiting till just before the end, like some of her previous songs. The chord pattern is nice, I'll say that. The musical backing is a bit minimal, so minimal you almost forget it's there, which is a bit weird. So that's Billie Eilish, and a kind of curate's egg. I must say her voice is as good as I've ever heard it singing the choruses, but a bit the Till I Day I Die, that's very nice indeed. The verses are a bit kind of wispier and slight. So it's not quite as good as Chappell, and it's probably better than Chappell, not Dave Chappell, Chappell. It's not quite as good as that, but it is better than Sabrina, so it's kind of in the middle. That is Billie Eilish. Now, let's go over to Bruno Mars, who's back again, and Lady Gaga, Die With A Smile. Bit of Chappell Roan and Hot to Go, and here is Lady Gaga with Bruno Mars. Yeah, this one's a bit different. So it's been a while since he's been on one of these. In fact, I could be wrong, but I think this might be the first time he's been on since the Silk Sonic stuff he did with Anderson .Paak. Now you notice Anderson .Paak is missing here because it's nowhere near as kind of hip sounding. It sounds a bit more show busy. It's kind of less funky, a bit more kind of Saturday night TV, but not in a bad way because that was all part of soul music anyway back in the day when it came to the more ballad stuff. And this is in that soul crooner mode. Now it's interesting actually. Lady Gaga's voice works really well on this. Maybe she should be doing more of this sort of soul style stuff instead of the pure pop. She's a good voice and it wraps around Bruno's voice very well when it finally comes in. So Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, I'll let you decide which order to put them in. Next up then, we've got another star-studded collab, and it's not the first time these two have hooked up. It's Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding, and Free. Well, it's yet more up-tempo, banging Scottish dance music from Calvin. It's a right pumper, really. Plenty of BPM. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the first of these kind of 140 BPM cleans that came around recently, I think it was Oliver Tree and Robin Schultz, that one. I really like the breakbeats in the middle. And the classic hammer pianos are a simple but reliable focal point for everything else to dance around. So that's a very buzzing tune indeed. From Calvin and Ellie. Now we go over to Jade and Angel of My Dreams. There was actually someone called Jade back in the 90s, like a girl band. I don't know if they ever made it now. They might have made a minor appearance on one. I don't associate them with anything else. This isn't that Jade anyway, this is someone else altogether. So Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, Die With A Smile. Jade, Angel of My Dreams. Now this is a very weird one indeed. Very, very weird. It's about 4 songs all kind of clonked together. They keep switching every few seconds. So you've got this kind of slowish intro, which almost sounds a bit like a Christmas song. And then it suddenly switches to kind of naughty sounding EDM. Something like the Deep Dish or the Boogie Pimps, that kind of thing. And then in the chorus, it switches yet again to a kind of plinky, plonky, sing-along 80s chorus. So it definitely feels like about 3 or 4 songs. But it does hold your interest throughout. It's actually got some really nice chord changes and some really good vocals that bloom into these lovely high notes when it finally gets there. Yeah, interesting. This Jade and Angel of My Dreams. Now we follow this one up with a rather meh Kylie one. Lights, camera, action. It's okay, it's definitely well produced and the vocals are alright. Everything's in the right place. But like a lot of the sort of second division Kylie stuff, something about it leaves you a bit cold. Again, it's a bit naughty in sound, reminding me a bit of the Black Eyed Peas once they ditched hip-hop, gone into more club stuff. I think it's scary that stuff's about 20 years ago now, isn't it? Definitely ripe for a revival. Now, you'd forgive me for thinking a Snook song was also a Kylie tune, because it does sound more like Kylie than Kylie. Let's play a bit of it. It's Bless and Cameron Watson, Kisses, featuring BB Close. So that was Jade and Angel of My Dreams. Doesn't that also sound like Kylie? It really does. Sounds more like Kylie than Kylie. Yeah, again, it's this sort of post, almost Scouse House in a funny sort of way. It's definitely 140 beats per minute, and with that kind of offbeat organ bass line and the big build-ups, yeah, it's kind of the missing link between Scouse and Scottish dance music. Probably Carlisle dance music, maybe. Or, I don't know. Halt whistle. Get your whistles out. Halt whistle crew. Right, now talking of club bangers, Sunny Federa, Jazzy, and D.O.D. Some Days. I say it's a club banger, but in fact, in percentage terms, probably only about 30% of this tune actually has a dance beat whatsoever. It's a 3-minute tune, of which 2 minutes don't have any beats. It's all about drops and build-ups. When the beat does kick in, it's absolutely lush. And it's it's a right banger. There's almost definitely an extended DJ version. Now, I will say the vocals and melody fill out the spaces entirely, so it's kind of radio dance music, if that makes sense. Dance music you'd hear on the radio than in a club, in a now format anyway. but I certainly would switch it off. It would get me tapping my toes. That's some days. Sonny Fodera, Jazzy and D.O.D. Followed up by the third time for Teddy Swims and Bad Dreams. Now this is slightly more kind of down-tempo than normal, or more subdued than some of his other stuff, which is quite interesting, because his stuff has had these really big crashing drums before, and in this one the drums are a lot more in the background. So it's definitely a bit more understated, but it's no worse for that. It's just great old-fashioned soul music, really. He sings it well. It's got great words, great melody, good music. It's unpretentious. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan indeed. Now we move on to not this. This is the one next, if you can recognise it. Shawn Mendes. We'll be coming on to this one that I'm playing very soon, but I want to get you there. Shawn Mendes, he's back after a couple of years. He's one of those people, I know nothing about him personally. He could literally walk past me in co-op and I wouldn't even recognise him. That's good though, because it means all I have to go on is the sound of the music. Is it any good or not? Well, this one's not that bad. It's not that great, but it's definitely, listenable. It's why. He's changed his sound to be a bit more acoustic and less fully produced than before, but it still kind of has a megabucks production. Though there are some sort of country fiddles, and this really demonstrates that country music's really kind of been infiltrating pop music a lot more recently. So the song won't change the world, but it's kind of a subtle change of direction for Shawn, and it's a good one. Now, this is the one that I'm playing, Noah Kahan, and this is his third appearance on the Now on the trot, I think. So what a fantastic year for him. Now, even though Shawn Mendes went some way to kind of stripping down his sound, he didn't go this far. This is really stripped down. And, I mean, this sort of stuff wouldn't have been a hit 5-10 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago. It's massive nowadays. It's really some of the most raw and organic kind of pop music for ages. It accentuates the acoustic, it minimises the electronics, and it just reminds us of how things have changed since the aforementioned noughties. You can get in sniffing distance of the charts. You can have piercing synths, booming beats, and mockney raps all over your tune. I think it's actually my favourite of all the Noah songs today. It's a slow building affair, and you really can't knock it on any level. It's got a good band, good singing, good vocals, and it's not stunningly exciting, but it's comfortable and warming, and it leaves you feeling good. So, yeah, great one. Not so good is Gracie Abrams. I love you, I'm sorry. It's another simpering girl. Just like Sabrina Carpenter, or is it Billie Eilish? I guess there's some tool, some plugin for Logic or Pro Tools, and you can take anyone from Barry White to Axl Rose and get them to sing through this plugin, and they come out singing exactly like a spoilt 12-year-old girl. I'll try it myself one day. So the music's nice enough with this Gracie one, but it's all, it's soft, it's simple and lush, it's got a nice enough melody. I just don't like that style of vocal. I've not liked it before, I'm not going to start now. It's been done a million times and they all sound exactly the same. Now, the Kid LAROI is also someone who's not really, let's say, at the top of critical acclaim, but he's had some good moments. Generally the ones that are, again, stripped down to the bare essentials. This particular one, Nights Like This, is a lot more heavily produced, almost a bit like post-dubstep. It's kind of dreamy and deep. Kind of sounds a bit dated, but it's not bad at all. One thing in its favour is it's so damn short, like literally 1.5 minutes, that you just don't have time to get sick of it. I don't understand why you would do something that's so lavishly produced, but only 1.5 minutes long. It's weird. Gone to all that effort to get all these sounds and stuff, and then you just ditch it after 1.5 minutes, which is literally pretty much half the length of the next one, which is still under 3 minutes anyway. It's 2:47. It's Alex Warren featuring Ella Henderson. So brilliant song there for Noah Kahan. I really like that. You're Gonna Go Far. And it's Alex Warren and Ella Henderson. Now this is an interesting one. Again, there's some interesting songs on here. Although I think this absolutely should have kind of gone straight off the Noah, because it kind of follows it. Well, certainly the start to it does. It's cut from the same cloth indeed. And then it certainly at first, and then it suddenly comes over all Nathan Evans, and it turns itself into a big old Celtic jig. Now Ella Henderson takes a step, a brave but successful step outside of her electronic comfort zone, and it's nice to hear her sounding far less nasal than normal. This song is tailor-made to be a crowd sing-along affair, coming to a football ground near you, and I'll probably be singing along. So there we go, Alex Warren and Carry You Home. Not to be confused with Glowworm, Carry Me Home from now 28, only 30 years ago. Right, we follow this striking number up with, wait for it, Clean Bandit, Anne-Marie and David Guetta. I've never been a fan of Anne-Marie, but I do listen to stuff with an open mind, just to be sure. To be fair, her voice isn't bad here. My favourite thing on the whole tune is actually the violins. I think they're really, really good. They really cut through. The rest of the song kind of sounds like every Guetta tune ever, mixed in with every Avicii tune and every Diplo tune, and LSO. If you stuck all of them through the mangle, this is what would come out. So it could be better, but it could be a lot worse. And it gets 30% at least for the strings alone. Right, let's have a Jade Club party now. Are you in the Jade Club? What do I mean? I mean Jax, Joel, and Jason. Jax Jones, Joel Corey, and Jason Derulo. And after that one from Alex and then Ella, I'm going to say she sounds way less nasal there than on the more dancey ones, which proves it's just an effect they use that makes it sound like that. When she's just left alone naturally, it sounds great. It still sounds good on the club tunes, to be honest. But that's definitely a highlight. So is this one actually in a funny sort of way? A very funny sort of way. Can you recognise where that backing comes from? Wait for it. Bats and now, eh? You'll hear what I mean, if you haven't already twigged it. And the Cutting Crew. Here we go. This is a really unlikely song to have sort of found its way back. A bit like the Logical song, it's like really not a dance tune in its original format. And it's periodically put back on a number of dance bangers throughout the years. So in a way, I guess we should have expected Jason Derulo to get his hands on it one way or another. I'm kind of surprised he's not mashed it up with a hippopotamus song or something. And it does have the steady hand of Joel and Jax to ensure the beats and production are top notch. Definitely a winning version. In fact, I probably prefer it to the original if I'm honest. Now, I'm going to play this next one as well, because for a moment I was absolutely convinced it was Becky Hill on vocals. It's not. It's a new talent, actually. Well, someone that I've not come across before. Maybe you have. Maybe I'm behind the curve. But here she is, Charlotte Haining. So there was Jason Derulo, Jax Jones, and Joel Corey. Here is Switch Disco, Charlotte Haining, and wait for it, Felix. Now, what's interesting is Felix gets a credit here, whereas Cutting Crew didn't get a credit on the last one. So I wonder how Felix earned his credit on this. Who's Felix? Well, he's someone who did a hit about 32 years ago, massive club hit, and it's called Don't You Want Me? And you'll hear the organs coming in any moment. They form the basis for this. Wait for it. Here we go. No, we don't. I hate when that happens. And they're fading in. Yeah, you can hear them coming up. So that's Felix's contribution to this. And that was a right banger when that song came out. I do wonder why, though, he does get a credit. I mean, you didn't get the Logical song credited to David Guetta featuring Supertramp or anything. Yeah, this works. This works really well. I've got to say, Switch Disco do the stuff very, very well. So good one. Potential for best song on the album. But it's followed up with another one. I don't think I can really make Becky Hill best song yet again, can I? People are going to start worrying about me. But that was the Becky sound alike. Here's the real thing. You got competition, Becky. Indestructible. And it's not just Becky, it's Andy C. Absolute pioneer of drum and bass, been doing this kind of music for a good old 30 plus years. Now, the funny thing is that Becky's actually been doing her D&B stuff a long old while. I tend to associate her with more of a kind of club house stuff, but, you know, she did that stuff with Wilkinson pretty much 10 years ago after Glow and These. I've also talked at length about the Chase and Status one, really not working out for some reason. But with every subsequent release, it proves that that was definitely a bad day, not part of a downward trend. Far from it. This is another banger. Ooh. It's pop, but it doesn't sell short all that makes D&B good, sonically. And it's got a really good melody. Listen to her singing. Loads of interesting noises. And it's not too shrill. I like those bleeps. Really well actualised. A lot of detail going on. Whereas the Change the Status one felt reductive. This one feels expansive. I don't know how, but that's the vibe I get. So well done, Becky. It is, yeah, again, it's a good end of a song of the album, but let's see if we can find someone else. Otherwise, it looks like you get special treatment. Could it be Rudimental? Well, they're more pervasive, quality D&B inspired pop. And in fact, I get this one on as well. So, Andy C and Becky Hill, Indestructible, followed closely by Rudimental and Karen Harding. Now, she hasn't appeared on one of these for a while. I'm sure she was on a fair few now. It's about 8 years ago. So it's nice to see her back. The song is called Bring Me Joy. And yet again, it's more quality D&B or D&B inspired pop from the Rudimental clan, who really do have an knack for this sort of stuff. The vocals are great. They're kind of sped up and affected and lots of chopping. But that kind of just takes us back to the kind of old school rave aesthetic. And it's got these kind of glittery beats that alternate jaggedly with a more rounded piano. So you've got a contrast here between dark and light. And whoever's playing this piano is doing a fantastic job. Really good piano on it. Piano playing's amazing. So we like this one. Now, Big Dogs. Big Dogs. Who let the dogs out? Excuse pronunciation. Hanumankind. Who is, I gather, an Indian rapper. It's, you know, you do get a fair few Indians coming over every now and then on these albums. We haven't had any real Bhangra for a while, and there's no real hints of Bhangra on this whatsoever. It sounds more like kind of typical American US rap from about 2008, say Flow Rider or Soulja Boy, but to be honest, it's better than either of them. It's kind of very ephemeral, hasn't really got any tune whatsoever, and it will probably never be played on the radio ever again after the end of this year. But, you know, right now, if I was to go to a club this afternoon or this evening, probably dance along. So, Big Dogs, who, we get Hanumankind. Okay, and then we come up to the halfway point with Chase and Status. We were just talking about them, and Stormzy, Backbone. Well, I would say it's definitely got more backbone than a lot of Stormzy's more dirty stuff recently. It's actually got proper beats on it, and it's got proper MCing on it again, rapping, which I've not heard him do on one of his own tunes for a fair old while. So, yeah, interesting. Something about it doesn't quite sit right, even though it's not obviously wrong in the way that the Chase and Status and Becky Hill one was. More often than not, I really like Chase and Status, and at their best, they're absolutely amazingly good. This isn't quite that. I don't know. It's kind of too much, and it's too in your face, and it doesn't really have any kind of dynamics. It's just full on all the way through. But it's not bad, actually. It's pretty good. I'm maybe just not in the mood for it. Bring Me Joy, Rudimental Karen Harding. And after that, we move on to the second half with Coldplay. So here we go then. And it's pretty nice and anthemic. It's got these cool motorbike noises that come in that lead into the chorus from this sort of fairly mellow start. Haters are going to hate, clearly. Lovers are going to love. That's Coldplay for you. I wouldn't say this is at the very top of the Coldplay tree, but it's a pretty solid addition to Canon. However, no sooner have I got this one started than we come up with almost definitely song of the album. I say that, it's the first real contender. It sets the bar incredibly high. Now, Becky Hill is one of my go-to pop stars of the current time. But she's got a competition here with The Weeknd, who's also one of my absolute faves. I try not to make these videos too much just about me. I try and look at the bigger picture. I think The Weeknd is absolutely one of the most talented artists of recent years. This song is absolutely stunning. I've made him song of the album repeatedly. What do you think? Is he overrated? Am I overdoing it? Or is he as good as I say he is? I think this is epically good, this song, yet again. Dancing in the Flames. The beats are funky, and they've got that perfect blend of electronic precision with a kind of looseness. Some nice rattling cowbells in there, and these crashing sim-tom fills that keep things interesting throughout. You've got that insistent synth line in there that adds a sense of urgency. Above it all is The Weeknd's angelic vocals. Just soar above everything with a really good, strong chorus. I don't think anyone out there manages to get all these ingredients just right so effortlessly. He's kind of up there with Prince and Michael Jackson in my book. He really is. He's kind of an all-rounder. I'm not like every single thing he's done, but I've by far and away like most of them. And when he's good, he's really, really good. Now, here's a weird situation. Here's someone who is really not brilliant on the first entry, but is absolutely great on this one. It's their second time on this now, and it's Sabrina Carpenter with Taste. But you know what? I think this is way better. That was The Weeknd and Dancing in the Flames, almost a contender for Song of the Album, if not so. Here is Sabrina. Now, what's different about this one is her voice. Is it just me? Tell me what you think. But I think her voice is way better on this one. It's nowhere near as simpering as on the other one. That's weird, isn't it? You wouldn't even thought it was the same person, to be honest, if you didn't know. It's mental. And musically, it's different as well. This one's pure mid-80s FM radio. It's kind of halfway between Heart and Fleetwood Mac, really. And there's even a cheeky nod to Kim Carnes, if you know, you know. So the country influence is, again, just about in there. Maybe not, to the fore, but it is in there. Essentially, it's just good old-fashioned pop rock, really. And it's a real winner by my book. Now, we've got a couple more that I probably won't play, but I shall pontificate about. Jordan Adetunji Kehlani. I really like the way he's singing tonally, but it's got a kind of cadence of rap. And that has been done before, and it kind of goes back to things like Bone Thugs and Harmony. But he's got his own style, even if he does sound about 12. Like a lot of this sort of new style Afro beats things, the beats themselves are actually a bit too minimal for my taste. Like in this case, there's literally no kick drum whatsoever, and that kind of makes it feel for me like it never really takes off. But that said, it is pleasant and original, and it's definitely the better side of that genre. So, fair play. Jordan Adetunji. Ariana Grande and The Boy Is Mine. Now, I'm sure you're all aware this is based on an old song by Monica and Brandy. And whilst it's nowhere near as good as either that or Ariana's last few tunes, which have been really good, still not a bad effort. It's certainly got a slick production. Her voice is high, breathy, and technically wonderful. And overall, it does feel a bit soulless, corporate, and contrived to really beat the original. Now another contender now. Another real surprising contender. I love that. I love it when I surprise myself. I love it when the now surprise me. And when someone did something not brilliant on the last album, yet they come good. And it's like, oh wow, I get it. And I've got to say, Perry, Tears hits that spot. You know why? Well, it gets me off onto the right foot with the chords. Before she even really sings more than just a couple of phrases. This has got great chords. Chords, chords, chords. I've said it a million times. A song can live or die based on its chord pattern. Get the chords right, everything else will work around that. This one works fantastically. It really does. It's got this emotionally resonant chord progression, kind of reminding me a bit of Hall & Oates or something. And that chord progression gives her loads of room to explore her vocal abilities in her own space and time. And you know what? They're really good. In a kind of down-to-earth, fairly unshowy way. She's not overdoing it, and she's not simpering. Can be done, ladies. Listen and learn. She's having fun with it. As of the band, by the sound of things, it's got a killer groove in the chorus. In fact, all the way through. And this is another kind of timeless pop thing that I really go looking for when I do these reviews. Just songs that, they just transcend the norm. And there's something timeless about them. This is in that category, so fair play, Perry. Cheers. An absolute surprise contender for the song of the album. But there's a lot more coming now. Things are getting really interesting. Now, another one that's certainly interesting. That's one way of describing it. But you know what? I love it. It's Michael Bublé's rendition of Georgia Ezra song of all things. And it's Don't Blame It On Me, which I'm absolutely convinced made a now. Around about 2014, was it? Well, it feels like it did. But Michael Bublé kind of totally reimagines the song with a kind of really old-fashioned big band style. This got a swing thing. It could have really come from the 50s onwards. Yeah, it's fun. You know, Michael always has fun with his music, and fun is so important. If the singer's not having fun, the listener ain't. That's for sure. Katy Perry. Not because Perry, Katy Perry. Is she having fun? Well, I like the sounds. I like the backing. This is Woman's World. And I definitely like the kind of Marauder-style wobbly sequencer and the drum machine. That will never get old, that kind of backing. Her voice is pretty dominant. It's a bit overwrought, but it's not simpering. Again, I'll give her that. Chorus ain't particularly memorable, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Above average for Katy. Not as good as the next one, though. Now, really, if the last one that was credited to, was it Switch Disco featuring Felix, Switch Disco, Charlotte Haining and Felix, by that logic, this next one should be Ella Henderson, Switch Disco, and Chris Rea. Blimey, we've had Cutting Crew, now we've got an old Chris Rea song. It was more maybe commonly known in the dance fraternity when it was revived by York. It's On the Beach. It's a perennial song. It's really not beach weather here right now, but you know, we can close our eyes and imagine. Ella Henderson is back again, and you know, I think she sorted out her nose issues. Sorry to be obsessed with her nose. It doesn't sound like she's singing through it anymore. Maybe she had some like surgery done or something, cleaned out her sinuses. She sounds great, really, really good. Ella does Ella, and it works. Switch Disco, pump up the beats yet again, and it kind of finds a kind of missing link between On the Beach and almost a bit of that Bronski beat of Small Town Boy, and that's certainly done the rounds a million times. Everyone from September to Ed Sheeran's used that. So despite being very kind of unoriginal in that sense, it works. It works really well. Now, we follow this one up with another dancey one. It's Guetta and Alesso. I was talking about them earlier. Never Going Home Tonight. Well, it's big. It's very big. In fact, it's so big that the kind of synths almost barge the vocals out the way rather unceremoniously. Those synth riff, it kind of fills the room. It really does. And it's also got a kind of country element of the vocals, but like I say, the moment the synth comes in, the vocals just have to take a backseat. So it's certainly pumping. Now, another one I think I'm going to play, The Blessed Madonna and Kylie Minogue. That was Switch Disco and Ella Henderson, and I'm going to say featuring Chris Rea, even if they're not certainly semi-composed by him. The Blessed Madonna and Kylie, Edge of Saturday Night. Now, I think I prefer this to the actual pure Kylie one. It's kind of edgier and it's more interesting. It's less polished and more underground, and it's got a better melody anyway. Obviously, it's not Madonna. It's the Blessed Madonna. So we should thank our blessings for that, to be honest. Yeah, the pianos kind of sound like they've come from a rave tune from about 91, and the beats are chunky and driving. So that's a winner. Pet Shop Boys are back yet again, third time I think on the trot with Phil. Good to have them back, and they're in a pretty good place at the moment. Funnily enough, the Pet Shop Boys were there with Kylie way back on Now 11, the class of 88. This one's a bit subdued, kind of reminds you a bit of something like 1990s, Being Boring, if you remember that. The strings are nice, the beats maybe not quite as striking the 80s as that last one. It's fairly nice and ethereal. Now, bonus fact, the video shows a road I know very well, the M62, going under the Scammerdon Viaduct. just west of Huddersfield, a road I travel many times every week. So spotted. Right, now, if with Pet Shop Boys and Kylie, we're going back to the 80s. Duran Duran go back even further. They go back to the very first Now that I actually bought. Now 2, believe it or not. New Moon on Monday. It was never one of the kind of A-list of Duran Duran songs in terms of popularity. But it's a good song, and it's a song that actually really stands the test of time, and it works just as well now in 40 years after the original. 40 years, wow. And it's interesting what they've done with it, really. It's more or less kept intact. Certainly the chord pattern, banging on about chords, well, it had a good chord pattern, and they've kept it pretty much exactly the same here. What they have done is taken out the kind of big, heavy 80s beat, and they've replaced it with a much kind of lighter beat. I wouldn't necessarily say a more modern beat, because that kind of beat could have been around in the 80s, as indeed it was on things like Save a Prayer, which was an earlier single than this. So it just goes to show what goes around comes around, and you can't hold down a good chord pattern and a good melody. All those elements survive, and they sound as good today as they did when I first heard this song in 1984. One thing I will say, there was a kind of problem with the original, and that problem's still here. Just a slightly problematic drop into the final chorus after the middle 8. It's a bit clunky, but it's still a bit clunky, so maybe it's how they wanted it to be. Fair play. There we go, Duran Duran. Now, kind of want to play this next one as well. There's a lot I want to play now, so we'll play you some snippets. You probably won't even hear them anyway, to be honest. I have them so quiet because it's mainly about me talking. If you like the songs, buy them, buy the album, or download it, stream it, whatever works for you. I'm here to recommend. And in this case, there is actually an awful lot to recommend. Next up, if the Duran Duran are one of the big bands of the 80s, who are one of the biggest bands of the 90s, definitely Manic Street Preachers. So it's great pleasure to have them back with Decline and Fall, and I Shall Stick Some On. It's a really solid tune. It's another contender for Song of the Album. They never out and out disappeared. Well, Richie did, that's a whole other story. But the band itself, they've cropped up periodically every now and then. And here they are back again. So a bit of Duran Duran, a bit of Manics, and it's kind of it just kind of proves the point, really, that, you know, all these bands from pop history, they have their moment and they have their era, but if they're any good, they'll survive that era and they'll transcend it and they'll become truly timeless. And that's exactly what this series is about. The songs that are timeless, the bands that are timeless, the music that's timeless. This is a cracker. It's got another brilliant chord structure, some great chord patterns on this album, and everything bounces around that anthemically. Plenty of frantic drum rolls and guitar squeals, and they augment very strong vocal melody. Really good, and great to have them back. Decline and Fall, and Rise of the Manic Street Preachers. Listen to that. Another really strong song now. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to play it. It's The Killers, and that's Naughty. So we had Duran Duran from the 80s, Manics from the 90s, definitely one of the biggest bands of the noughties. The Killers, and they've been knocking out hits more or less ever since. This one is another really strong one. It's called Bright Lights. It's big and anthemic. It's kind of rootsy while still being up-tempo. And it's got a really big chorus, and it almost gets to Christmas levels, but it stops short of jumping the keys in the shark. Now, about a zillion times, he asks if we'll ever turn the bright lights on, which accounts for about a good half of the tune, really. But behind all that, it swells majestically with even big gospel choirs, so you never really get sick of it. And we follow that with another really good one. I guess I can get this one on. Hozier and Nobody's Soldier. So there was the Manics, and that's a really striking song, and we really like it. What do you think, do you? Is it one of their best songs? Certainly up there. Nobody's Soldier from Hozier. Now, this is another strong song from someone who's pretty much not put a foot wrong ever, really. I don't think I've disliked to sing Hozier's song. Done a variety of styles, everything from real chill-out stuff to house and dance, and now kind of rootsy, kind of northern soul, really. Certainly got a northern soul stomping groove. mod, if not Northern Soul. And it's got these kind of James Body movie string stabs that give it a kind of sense of suspense. It's not too far removed from the kind of Teddy Swim stuff, really. It's up there with that, indeed. So yeah, it's a goodie. Certainly gives it its all in the vocal department. The band are tight, the sound is tense. I'm a fan. Tom Grennan follows, which takes us into what I call nouveau disco territory. I've just noticed there's no Dua Lipa on this album. Where is she? She normally does this sort of stuff. So Tom Grennan, musically at least, fills that space. It is a very nice groove, and the vocals were all in all pretty well. I do find the chorus a bit overbearing, and there's some demi-rapping. It's a bit kind of like poor man's Ed Sheeran, and that sounds a bit phony in a way. So it's almost a great record, but it's kind of like Orange Squash. It's been a bit over-concentrated, too much of the concentrate, not enough water. The same ingredients, but in slightly different proportions, would have been significantly less wearing and tiring on the listener. And I would say compare this with the simplicity and the directness of Noah Kahan, and you'll understand what I mean by how overproduced this one is by comparison. And also by comparison with the next one, which I'm definitely going to play, because it's my old friend from East Sussex. I live in Leeds. I was born in East Sussex. God, more wind turbines, along with the Pet Shop Boys. Every single video seems to have wind turbines in, and as I say, every now and then I'm really not a big fan of them. But you didn't come here to hear me talk about that. You came in to talk about music. If I like low frequency sound, I want it to come from music, not from wind farms. Anyway, Rush of Blood. Well, no wonder you got a rush of blood to the head, mate, with all that infrasound. But that aside, it's my old friend Rag'n'Bone Man. And it's great to see him doing up-tempo stuff like this. I really think he's proven his chops by now as one of the best singers of recent years. Certainly one of the best to come from Upfield. And this is an interesting song. His voice never fails to impress. By the end of it, it takes a while to get there. By the end, we're totally immersed in like pure 70s disco instrumentation. So it proves that you could be lavish and you can have lots of instruments, but you don't have to overdo it. And this does that. It's not overbearing. It's got a massive voice, but he sets it back. It's in the blend with all the sounds. And I would say everything Tom Grennan's producer got wrong, Rag'n'Bone Man gets right, or his producer gets right. Compare and contrast. Maybe it is just a taste thing. You tell me what you think. But I think the Grennan one, I think it will date because it's so uber contemporary in its production that it will also sound very dated by next year. Whereas this Rag'n'Bone Man, because it's harking back to older stuff anyway, it doesn't sound dated, and it won't sound dated in a few years from now. I reckon we'll still be listening to this one. Bear in mind, that Duran Duran one, that's 40 years ago. Will we still be remixing and remaking of this year for 40 years from now? That's 2064. Woo! I reckon we'll come back to this one. Maybe not the wind farms, but certainly the song. Rush of Blood, Rag'n'Bone Man. There we go. Now, Sting, he's been around even more than 40 years, knocking on 50, certainly a good 45. And I Wrote Your Name. Well, he's getting ricketier his appearance, but he's still plodding along. His voice is actually growlier than ever. The music's kind of a bit ponderous, but, you know, it's actually way better than I'm making it sound. I'll get a bit of it on. Why not, indeed. This is Sting, and I Wrote Name Upon My Heart. I wrote your name, not I wrote my name. That would be a bit weird, a bit narcissistic, but you never know, it might remind you if you ever forget. Just look down at your torso and you'll get reminded of your own name. Enough of this tomfoolery. I'm being too fun for the decidedly bleak and dreary and drab Snow Patrol. I kind of forgot how dull they really are. Maybe it's just me. I mean, it's alright. It's just a bit of a slog, really. That's Snow Patrol and all. It's alright. It's just doesn't grab me by the bollocks and shake me around, which is probably a good thing, to be honest. Now, what about Tom Walker? In fact, no sooner than I've started Sting, I think I'm going to stick a bit of Tom Walker on, because that does pick you up and drag you by the bollocks in a good way. It's a custard and mustard affair. It takes two different kind of tropes, two different music types, or two different styles, or two different things, and it bounces them against each other. Sometimes that works appallingly. Sometimes it works really, really well. It's really difficult to say when and why it works and how it works. It's a kind of alchemic thing, a chemical reaction, if you like. So you've got Tom Walker, who's basically kind of, I guess, rock, really, alternative rock. And up against this, you have these real heavy electronic beats that come in. Building up. Definitely a dynamic song. Like Rag'n'Bone Man, he's got a big voice and he pushes it. And it's kind of on the border of what would be too loud. But here we go. It's soaked up by these equally heavy beats that catch it and interplay with it. Yeah, very, very good. Very musically good, this one. Very good production values. I'm listening and learning a lot how you can take different things and kind of make it work. So yeah, I really like this. Tom Walker and Burn. Before you know it, we're at the end of the album. I guess I better play it to kind of play us out because it's the last song and it's a notable band indeed. It is Linkin Park, and they've got their new singer now, Emily Armstrong, obviously after the tragic loss of Chester, who we say R.I.P. to. So what do we make of Emily and what do we make of the comeback then? Well, we'll gloss over the fact that she's got Scientology connections. I'll let you make your own mind up about that. But it's a good case that I often say of trying to separate out the artist's personal life or their personal politics or their religion, if you can call it a religion, versus what you hear on record. Does it influence the music? Does life imitate art? Not obviously so in this case, not in a detrimental way anyway. I think it works really well. I think she's got a good voice and I think it really suits the music. And yeah, I guess we'll play it to play us out. This is Linkin Park and the Emptiness Machine. I like that. That's good. So, yeah, the Emptiness Machine by Linkin Park. Maybe that's even an anti-Scientology lyric. You never know. Maybe she's turned against it and can't say it outright. Maybe it's in the lyrics. What do you think? So let's go through this. I've really enjoyed this album, actually. I think it's probably the better second half than first half. But all in all, I don't think I've really out and out criticised the single song. There's certainly been very few that have come to my attention as being really horrible. So what's really good then? What do we really go for on this? Well, I think we got off to not a great start with Sabrina Carpenter, but we made up with Chappell Roan. Hot to Go, I really liked. Second one I've really liked from Chappell. Billie adequate. I really like Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. I think both of those two are at the top of their game with that one because it's different. Certainly different from the normal Lady Gaga stuff and pretty different from the normal Bruno one, although there's elements. Calvin and Early, you can guarantee to get it right. Very impressed with the Jade one. I thought that was interesting. Not so keen on Kylie, Lights, Camera, Action. Adequate. Then there's some solid club ones from Bless and Sunny Federa. Good, but maybe a bit understated from Teddy compared to the really big ones from last time. Shawn, adequate. Noah Kahan, I really liked. Gracie, man, not for me really. Kid LAROI, pretty short, not too bad. I liked Alex Warren and Ella Henderson, and I really liked, and I was going to say Switch Disco and Ella Henderson. That was Switch Disco and Charlotte Haining and Felix, although we'll come on to Switch Disco and Charlotte and Ella. It's confusing, man. We'll come on to them shortly. I thought the Clean Bandit one was adequate. Jax, Joel and Jason was an interesting update of the Cutting Crew one tonight. Andy C and Becky Hill didn't disappoint. Rudimental and Karen Harding didn't disappoint. Hello to Han New Mankind and Calmy, adequate. Adequate, maybe a bit underwhelming. Chaser Status and Stormzy. I want Chaser Status to do something absolutely brilliant again to remind me of how they used to be and how they could be, and I'm sure still are when they want to be. Adequate comeback from Coldplay, didn't really set the world alight. Brilliance on Weather Weekend, Dancing in the Flames, absolute contender that. Much better for Sabrina this time with taste. Jordan was alright, yep, not bad. Adequate from Ariana, very good from Perry, Tears, really enjoyed that. Michael Bublé, a funny version of the George Ezra song, does well. Adequate, Katy Perry. I preferred Ella and Switch Disco with Alok, not Chris Rea, Under the Sun. Never Going Home Tonight. Interesting sounds, maybe. I didn't say before, it's featuring Madison Love. who kind of gets sidelined a bit by the Sims. Blessed Madonna and Kylie, better than just Kylie, I think. Edge of Saturday Night. Phil was adequate by the Pet Shop Boys. Interesting remake of New Moon. Maybe not quite as good, but not bad. New Moon on Monday. New Moon on, what is it today? Wednesday. Manic Street Preachers, really like Decline and Fall. Definite contender. Another definite contender for The Killers. And Hozier, that's another good one. Tom Grennan, overproduced. Rag'n'Bone Man, that's a contender. Sting, adequate. Snow Patrol, bit dreary, one of the worst on here. But, I know a lot of people like Snow Patrol, so I don't want to be, offensive if you like them. Fair play. Maybe I'm just a bit hyped up today. I've got a lot to do and it's a bit slow. Tom Walker, Burn, very good. And The Emptiness Machine, actually, really good. So, a great album. A really, really good album, that. Lots to enjoy. Not a lot to hate on. Hopefully see you next time for 120. Take care, everyone. Let me know what you think. Bye.